ROL kids, it's great to be with you again this week. I have so loved seeing you all on the Zoom. It's so much fun to see each other. If you aren't on the Zoom call now and you're watching this separately, then I really encourage you to make sure your parents know the link and you can hook on with us next week. So today we've got a lesson about prayer, and it's a really amazing lesson, I think. Now I wonder if any of you have prayed and prayed and prayed for something and felt that maybe God couldn't hear you or God wasn't listening to you. And I want to promise you that God hears our prayers. He hears us when we speak to Him. He's always listening. But sometimes God doesn't do things in the timing that we think He will. He's got a bigger and a better plan. And that's what we're going to learn about today. You know, when I was quite a bit younger, I was living in England. And I really prayed because I wanted to be married and I wanted to have children. And the time ticked on and the years rolled on, and year by year, I still hadn't met anyone. I still wasn't married. Now, by the time I was 30, I didn't think, oh, well, God hasn't heard me. But I did think, well, maybe God doesn't want me to be married. And so I decided to go home, to come back to Zimbabwe and to work in the church and serve in the children's ministry. And I got involved in the Michael Project, and I was really enjoying what I was doing. But guess what? Within a year of joining GP, this church, I met and married Uncle Dave. And together we have worked in the church for the last 21 years, our whole married life. And sometimes I wonder, if I had met someone in England and married them, would I have come back to Zimbabwe? Would I have got involved in the Michael Project and helped set up Shalom or Chikarubi Daycare Center? I don't know, but I really believe God had a plan for my life, and it was His timing. So today there's a story about a lady in the Bible who also prayed and prayed for many years. Now she prayed for a baby. She longed to have a baby, but years came and went and she still had no children. And to make matters worse, the other woman in the household with her had 2 babies and was really mean to her, quite cruel, and made fun of her. She even hinted that maybe Hannah didn't have a child because she displeased God. Well, Hannah decided that she would put her trust in God, and she faithfully prayed and kept giving her request to God to have a child. One day she went along with her husband to the temple. And while she was there, she was so overwhelmed with this burden and this grief of not having a baby to love and care for, that she poured out her heart to God. Her eyes were closed, there were tears streaming down her face, and she just prayed wordlessly, mumbling to God, just pouring out her soul. Now there was a priest watching her. His name was Eli. And he looked at her and he went over and he said, "What are you doing?" He accused her of having drunk too much. And she said, "Oh no, I'm just telling God of my great desire to have a child. And I've been waiting for years." And Eli saw that she was really telling him the truth, that she longed to have a baby. And he blessed her and he said, "Go in peace, God will hear you." Now the interesting thing is, when Hannah left the temple, she didn't miraculously have a baby in her arms. Nothing had changed. But the Bible tells us that as she walked away, her face was no longer downcast. She wasn't sad. She wasn't upset. She had given God her heart. She had been honest with Him. She'd shown him her emotions, how sad she was, how upset, maybe even a bit hurt and angry. But God had met with her. He'd comforted her. He gave her peace and hope. And when she left, she set her face and she walked away with her trust in place and faithfully went on to serve God. What she actually said when she was praying to God is, "If you bless me with a child, then when that boy is old enough, I promise that I will bring him back and he can serve you in the temple." Well, do you know what happened? A year later, Hannah gave birth to a gorgeous baby boy. He was an amazing gift to her, someone she had prayed for and asked God for. And just like she had promised, when Samuel was old enough, she took him back to the temple. She gave him back to serve the Lord. Now, do you know that this young boy is the young boy whose story you know? He was lying on his mat, fast asleep in the middle of the night, when he heard his name being called. Samuel, Samuel. And he jumped up and he ran to Eli and he said, yes, you've called me. And Eli said, it's the middle of the night. I didn't call you. Go back to bed. And it happened 3 times, didn't it? Before they realized, actually, it was the Lord, the God of Israel, who Samuel was hearing. He was calling Samuel's name. Now, what's really amazing, children, is that the Bible tells us that this was at a time when the Israelite nation had not heard the voice of God for a very, very long time. And so my question, my wondering here, children, is if Hannah hadn't prayed for this son for so many years, if she hadn't dedicated him to God even before he was born, would he have been someone who was sensitive enough to hear God's voice? Would he have become the great priest and prophet Samuel, who led God's people, who spoke God's word over the Israelite nation, who was the prophet who anointed King Saul and King David? I wonder if she'd had a baby years before and not pleaded with God and poured out her heart to God and given her son to God, whether God would have been able to use him in that way. And so, guys, I just want to encourage you, never stop praying. God sees our pain. He knows when we're hurting, but sometimes and most often, he has a plan in it. And don't be afraid to be honest with him. Don't be afraid to cry before God, but talk to him about the things, the burdens that are on your heart, the dreams that you have, and just wait for God to bring them through for you. Right, so there's a craft here, just a bit of fun to help us remember to always to pray. And there, when you open it, you can see a picture of Hannah with her baby. We'll put some other activities and things on the lesson. But have a great week, guys, and we'll see you next time. Bye.